All right, we're going to get a little spicy on this episode. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about your presence using your authentic voice. It does not mean that you either say nothing or that you totally lose your cool. There's so much in between. I have some stories, examples, and lessons for you to take away so that you can really own your presence, your authentic communication, and step into your full power in whatever it is that you decide to pursue. All right, welcome back. Today, I am really excited for our topic, one of my favorite topics, which is all around presence. Some people call it executive presence when you're in an organization, and authentic communication. This is one of the main things that I either speak on. I do a lot of workshops. Some of my signature talks are on this. I go to a lot of events and lead sessions on the power of presence, executive presence, communication. One of my favorite topics to geek out on. And today, I have so many thoughts on this that I want to bring to you. So buckle up, because here we go. We're going to get a little spicy, a little actionable, and a little bit of storytelling in here. So what I want to share with you first of all, so I hear this a lot. So if you're somebody who works in an organization or works in a company, you have probably heard executive presence. There are so many different thoughts around what executive presence is and isn't. So I want to talk today about what is presence, what it is, what it isn't, why it matters, why you should care, all the things. There are some people in the space of executive presence is outdated. Some people, saying that there's some bias within executive presence in terms of people's own lens of what that means to them. I'll give you an example. I was coaching one of my executive clients, a previous client, and some of his key areas that we were coaching, that we had identified between him and between his leader who brought me in to coach him, was things around his presence when he is presenting to the higher level executives in the organization, when he's working with his team. It was some of his communication styles. And when we started to get a little bit more clarity around what he meant by presence, he gave me the definition of what his manager told him, which was really just about how he physically looked in terms of his clothes. I don't want to give too specific of examples, but there's one particular thing that his boss told him that he should wear differently and have differently to have this presence. So that's one definition of presence, is thinking that you need to have a certain shoes or a certain briefcase or a certain outfit, and that can contribute to our presence as our own expression of how we look. However, if that's your definition of presence, no wonder that you would be feeling frustrated about that. So some people think there is this sense of, well, I don't want to show up like everybody else, or you look to people who are in positions or in places that you want to be, and now you think that that's your presence, that's what you have to do, that's the demeanor you have to have, that's how you have to look. And that's not entirely accurate. There is this part of your presence, whether in a large organization, a small organization, if you're a small business owner and as you're working with your clients, there is this sense of sometimes needing to maintain your authenticity and your own brand and your own presence, while also needing to conform at times and have those guardrails within the organization, meaning if they have particular dress codes that you need to follow, if they tend to be a little bit more conservative in dress, that might be a hindrance if you're somebody who isn't. So there are certain things that we need to be mindful of within terms of these guardrails, but there are so many misconceptions around it that people are really going to either extreme end when it comes to presence, especially within organizations. Either, we all have to look like this, act like this, speak like this, or we're going so far away from it that we are losing this level of professionalism and presence in terms of the energy that you bring into a room, the way that you communicate, being able to really command and own a room, being known for something. So there is so much gray area in between that I think we need to talk about instead of thinking it's this or this. So when we're talking about presence, the way I talk about it is finding your authenticity. It is knowing how you're going to show up. It's how people think and feel about you. It's the energy that you bring into the room. It's what you're known for. So what do people think of you when you walk in there? What type of energy are you bringing in? What's your style of communication? What's your style of leadership? What is your style of dress? How is it that you lead meetings? There's so many pieces when it comes to our presence. And there's all these little things that we can work on. And so it's this balance of finding your authenticity within the confines of where you are, right? So that's from a big picture standpoint. So I want to touch on a few key sort of what it is. So, right, what it is it's how we show up. It's, what people feel, what we make people feel and think. And now there's this level of perception versus reality, right? We cannot control, and so I always say this in my trainings when I'm speaking, we cannot control everybody's perception of us, nor should we be constantly worried what everybody is thinking of us, because that can really get in our head, right? That's where that self-doubt, that imposter syndrome comes in, where we feel like we're not enough. So there's this fine balance of not always being worried about what everybody's thinking, while also needing to have a level of self-awareness, because I'm sure you can all think of people who don't have self-awareness. They don't think about how the things that they're saying are interrupting people or just saying everything that comes to mind without any type of filter, right? Like that is a lack of that self-awareness, and it's that presence. So when I think about presence, one of the way we explain it is think of somebody who, when they walk into the room, they just have this thing about them. We can't always explain exactly what it is, but they just have this thing. They have this energy. Maybe they make you feel excited. Maybe they kind of make you sit up in your chair a little bit. Maybe they really make you lean in with curiosity. Maybe they get you really excited. Maybe it's that you really feel like they hear you, versus now think of somebody else who is this drain. Like they walk into the room and you just feel like the energy is like sucked out of you and you don't want to participate. They make you upset. They make you angry. They make you shut down. Those are types of presence, one that we want to lean more into and one that we probably don't want to lean more into. So we already kind of talked about what it isn't. It's not just exactly what you're wearing. It's not trying to be exactly like somebody else. It's not this putting yourself in a box. I'm really big on and helping people get out of the box that we're putting ourselves or other people into, right? One of my signature talks that I do. So it's not putting that self into the box. It's finding what are the parameters where I can bring my full authentic self, use my voice, have my brand, and also being mindful of what are the expectations of my role. So for example, if you're in a position where you need to do, this is where I come into organizations a lot, is either to work with individuals or with the team. If you need to improve your communication, either one-on-one with your, employees in terms of giving them coaching and feedback, maybe having difficult conversations, what is your overall energy, presence, and mindset when you're doing that? Or maybe you're somebody who's now being tasked with having to do more presentations in front of people or big team meetings, or maybe presenting things to the board. You're needing to get out of the weeds and think more strategically and speak more strategically. That's part of the presence as well. For some of you, it might be just your overall presence when you're working with clients, or the energy around your business. All of those things are part of that presence. It's not just one thing, and it's not just doing exactly what somebody else is doing. Why it matters, because this is the thing that makes you stand out. This is I call it your sort of differentiator, your unique qualifications. This is your personal brand. So when I'm talking about presence and some of the sessions that I do on presence and the power that this really has, we talk about personal branding, we talk about, really cultivating your confidence, and we talk about activating the presence and influence, because when you have more presence, you have an ability to influence, right? And so when we talk about presence, it's really important for us to be able to own who we are, what we stand for. And so we talk about personal branding. It's really important for you to get clear on what it is that you want to be known for. Think of companies who spend and invest so much time and money into their branding. I want you to start thinking about yourself as a brand, and what words would you want to represent yourself as your brand? Is it vibrant and bubbly and outgoing? That's what I would expect then when I'm interacting with you. And again, you can still do that in an environment that's not like that. You just have to find kind of the dance of doing it, right? Because that's the thing that makes you stand out. We don't need to let go of all of that. That's where we get people burnt out or misaligned, because they have been putting on this facade for so long. You can find a way to do the and instead of the either or the but, right? So what words do you want to be known for? What do you want people to think of when they think of you? Is it powerful, confident, polished, put together? Is it funny? Is it silly? Is it engaging? Like, what are those words that you really want people to be known for? That can help you to identify. And sometimes I challenge people to either hold up the mirror for themselves and say, am I actually showing up this way? Or even to ask people for feedback. That can be tough, but ask them and say, hey, what comes to mind when you think of me, or when you're working with me, what words come to mind, and see if it's in alignment. And sometimes they even have great things, and you can ask several people and you start to see themes of things you hadn't even thought of yourself. Or if they're open to it and you're open to receiving it, you start to go, ooh, maybe I'm not showing up in the way that I want, and what changes do I need to make? The other piece of really cultivating your confidence as part of your presence is releasing the expectation that you need to know it all. So often I hear from people is like they have a hard time with their presence because when they're around people who know more than they do, or if they're newer in the role, if other people have been doing it longer, if fill in the blank of all of the things what makes us feel like an imposter, right? And so they don't have this confidence, and then as a result, they don't have this presence. They don't command the room. They don't make people lean in and want to speak, because usually they're sitting back and they're meek and they're mild, right? And so when we talk about confidence comes from, I always say, from courage and action, because we don't have confidence right away. So if you're doing something and you want to have a presence and you want to be known, whether it's in an organization or in your space, standing out, whatever it might be, you need to have the courage first. So courage needs to come first, to take the step, to raise your hand for the opportunity, to have the conversation, to challenge somebody on something, and then it's followed up with consistent action. That's what creates confidence. And when you show yourself that you continually can figure things out, that's where you build the confidence. It's not expecting yourself to know it all right away and to have it all figured out. It's to know that you can figure out. And if you mess up and if something happens, you can look back and go, wow, there was another instance that I was nervous, I was scared, that I didn't feel like I knew what I was doing, but I figured it out, I made it through, and now you have slightly more confidence to do it this time. So that's another really big key thing. And then how do you activate this into your influence? When you start to become more clear on your personal brand, on what you want to be known for, when you start to really cultivate this confidence in yourself, then you start to have more influence. People are more likely to listen to you, you feel more confident to challenge them on things. You're more able to influence decisions because you have all of those pieces together. So when we talk about presence, it's so much more than just, being able to show up exactly like somebody else. And here's where we get a little bit spicy, is what I find, and not all the times, because I work with, men in this space, with women in this space. A lot of the times, women tend to struggle with the speaking up, the communication, and the presence more. And some of that is because of, depending upon what type of environment you work in, the expectations. Like sometimes we hear, women are too emotional or things like that. There's all those layers to that. But sometimes if you feel like you don't fit, your personality doesn't fit within the culture that you're within, sometimes it's stories we're telling ourselves, that we're making assumptions that we're not allowed to show up like ourselves, when that's not actually the truth. It's a story that we've told ourselves, right? Sometimes it's real, sometimes it's a story we're telling ourselves. I tend to see that women can struggle more when it comes to presence. There's more women in leadership conferences who are talking about executive presence and owning your voice. And so I want you to listen up as well, to say, again, going back to what I said something at the very beginning, it doesn't have to be that I say nothing or that I totally lose my cool. And this is really for everybody, right? Because again, people get into these extremes. I either have to just take it, whatever it is that somebody's doing something and you're not speaking up for it, you're not challenging it, you're not questioning it for whatever reason it might be. Or you're the person who, again, doesn't have that awareness and you just spew out everything that you're thinking, or you're putting people down, or whatever it might be. And what I'm going to challenge you to do is find the and, because when we talk about having a presence and having authentic communication and really finding and owning and using your voice, which I really put all together, that also means sometimes taking a stand and challenging people on things. It's not allowing people to push you around. It's not allowing people to treat you disrespectfully. It's not allowing people to bulldoze over you in meetings. That's not presence either. You think that you're just going to let those things go and just not address it, which there's a time and a place, right? Totally losing your cool in the meeting on the person, probably not the place, but also staying silent, not addressing it offline and having a conversation with them. also is not presence. Because eventually what happens is you're going to become resentful, you're going to become bitter, you're just going to keep questioning yourself. And so what is it that maybe you're tolerating right now that you could step into your power and take a stand? Maybe there's something that's happening that you want to challenge, that you're like, I don't think this makes sense, or I have a better idea. Why aren't you speaking up on it? I was just having a conversation with someone recently who's telling me about some of the things going on in their organization, and some of the, I will say, lack of leadership, lack of emotional intelligence, lack of awareness, and downright disrespect happening. And one of my questions was like, how long are you willing to tolerate that? What is that doing to you? What's the impact of that? What's the worst that can happen if you were to speak up, to respond on those things? Because again, it's either going to go one of two ways. You're either going to keep tolerating it and you're going to keep having burnout and resentment and anger and frustration, and you're going to really lose yourself in all of it. That's what I find, is people tend to lose themselves in all of it, and they become so far removed away from who they really are and what their strengths are that they forget that they have all of these amazing qualities and all of these strengths that they bring into their role and with their experience. Or sometimes, again, people start to tolerate those things and they go to the other extreme end where now they lose it. They totally lose their cool on somebody because they can't tolerate it anymore. And again, that's not having that level of awareness and presence either. So what are those things that maybe you need to be speaking up on now that are going to start to create some resentment for you? Hopefully this is getting your wheels turning when you think of your presence. This is so important. This is the thing you're known for. This is the thing you want to be known for. This is the way that you want to show up in the world, right? This is the thing that's going to make you you. And I have so much conviction around the fact that this is such an important thing, and we need to spend more intentional time curating it for ourselves versus letting other people define what it is, or looking to other people and saying that that's what it needs to be. Hopefully this got your wheels turning. I really would love to hear from you about what stood out for you from this. If this is a topic that you want to bring within your organization, definitely reach out to me. Let's set up a time to connect and talk about our different sessions that we do, either through one-on-one coaching, through our workshops, that really focuses on presence and also helping to find the right dance and the right balance of owning your presence while also needing to be mindful of the environment, the situation that you're in, and being able to really flex what that looks like. Remember that this is such an important skill, not only for your professional life, but also for your personal life as well, when it comes to owning who you really are.